Hey everyone, and welcome to the FTGU Media Show. This is actually my first in-person show today, so I'm super excited. COVID's in the past, and I have a friend of mine who I met a couple years ago through a mutual friend of ours, Jason Faulknor, AKA, and probably better known as Mr. Spreadlove. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here. My first podcast. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to have you, and I really wanted to talk, very quickly today, because as you guys know who have been following along, our podcasts are short. We want to get really to the point very, very quickly. Today, what I find so fascinating about you, Jason, but I'm going to start referring you to as Mr. Spreadlove, is that you have such an interesting background that has allowed you to kind of change your career trajectory. So you're a teacher by day, right?
Yes.
And what do you do by night?
As soon as that bell is rung, I am a clothing designer, brand, a little bit of everything. But right now, it's more of my Spreadlove brand.
I love that so much. So what's the group of students, like what's their ages that you teach?
I teach from 4 to 7.
I got to admit, I've seen some of your content that you've been producing online, and it showcases kind of your real beliefs and your passion, which obviously I can tell. You love being a teacher. You certainly enjoy it, and you love giving back to the community. And that's what I think is so fascinating, because you do that by day. That's a hard job in and of itself. Yeah. And then, as you said, when the bell rings, you go home, and now you're working on this brand. Can you kind of bring me back maybe to when this whole brand came about? And even if maybe we go before that, before you had the clothing brand, is a bit of you in the past. Like, tell me about this Mr. Spreadlove and why this was an important thing to promote for yourself.
Well, we can go as far back as, I guess, university. Obviously, I was involved with a lot of stuff. I played basketball, went to school, got a scholarship to the States. And, after graduating, I was able to travel and play professional overseas and just meeting a lot of people, building relationships, and really just kind of experiencing cultures from different countries and taking those experiences back with me. And the one thing that I noticed and one thing that stood out was hospitality. Everywhere I went, every country I played basketball in, the hospitality was crazy. Like, I guess it was a part of the culture, but me being a visitor, they treated me so well. They made sure I was okay. And I was like, these people don't know me.
Were you kind of expecting it to be the opposite of that? Like,
to be honest, yes. Because, I'm a foreigner. I'm in your country. And, they don't have to accommodate me. I need to actually accommodate, and try and fit into their culture. So, but going there, people were so warm. And I took my experiences back. And, I was like, had me thinking, like everywhere I went, they served me, or, someone was always trying to help me. And, so I took that back, and I'm like, okay, the experiences that I've learned, I want to take that back and put that into my community and serve and make an impact some way, some shape or form. And a big reason was I wanted to become a teacher. So taking my experiences overseas, coming back to Canada or Toronto, and wanting to give back to my community.
And I guess you wanted to have maybe a little bit of a part, some small role in these children's lives to help form them and hopefully make them and help create them to be good people as they get older,
right?
100%.
I remember the impact my teachers had on me. And I had a lot of friends at the time that were teachers and were in the community, and I saw the impact they were doing. And I was like, that's fulfilling. That's something I want to do. So I decided to go back to school, and I said I wanted to become a teacher. And I was lucky enough to teach in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. So a lot of these kids, I went through the same stuff, making decisions, being just having to grow up and make really critical decisions that would affect, your tomorrow, your next week, your next month, and years to come. And, I've been able to make the right decisions, which have led me to, doing some really cool stuff.
It's interesting that's kind of come full circle for you. When, you're a teacher now, obviously, why in this moment were you thinking, I want a little bit more. Obviously, you're touching the lives of, say, 30 kids every year. I don't know the classroom sizes, but in and around 30 kids every single year, which is, quite a bit of impact. And you're probably lucky to really be memorable in a handful of their lives, right, as they go along their journey. What made you think of expanding this idea of spreading love and starting a brand?
Well, I've always been involved with sports and youth, and I knew that I wanted to be more than just a teacher, and in the last few years, I've felt like, okay, I'm not to say I'm bigger than the classroom, but I can do more, outside of the classroom than within those four walls. And, when I decided, like, okay, I got to think of something where I'm actually making more of an impact. I'm not saying I'm making an impact now, but I felt that I could actually do more. So, it caused me to sit down and think, okay, what can I do? What is something that I've always wanted to do? And in 2014, while I was working retail, the idea came up about starting a brand, but a brand that actually had a message. So you see it, you don't have to think hard about it. I understand it, and, hopefully, it makes the impact. So that's kind of where Spread Love came from. And I've been trying my best, pushing it and trying to represent it at the same time. It's one thing to, be about something, but not actually do it, So.
That is so, so true. In case our viewers or listeners haven't put it together yet, Mr. Spread Love actually has a brand, and he's also wearing it today, called Spread Love. It's a clothing brand that actually is now, just as of this week, in Foot Locker stores, which I do want to get to in a bit. But it's interesting. Everyone I've spoken to who knows you from your past, like Jazz, for example, our mutual friend of ours, they speak to the fact of this authenticity between you and your brand. And, you said anyone can just smack on a label on something and not necessarily stand behind the merits of what it says. Or they can say, well, my company stands for XYZ, but they don't necessarily exhibit the behaviors. For you, it's so interesting because everything everyone says is he's doing exactly who he is. He's always spreading love. He's always, looking out for the underdog, the little guy. It's, what can we do to be more inclusive? Again, you wanting to teach this and install this in these kids, and then also put this in the brand.
Yeah.
Did you always know this was kind of like who you are? Because sometimes a lot of the clients we work with here at FTGU Media, they have a hard time formulating what they want their personal brand to say. And it's funny because when we're doing our consultations with them, I'm saying it's not necessarily about what you want your brand to be. It's more about what your brand already is. You as a personal brand already stand for a lot of things. You've just probably never put it on paper. Was it always clear to you what your personal brand was?
It was, and you made a really good point about actually putting it on paper, because I never did that. But I've always wanted to represent what I was about, and the brand, I'll be honest, it's keeping me accountable. Keeps me accountable. And, my students help keep me accountable too. Like if from saying a joke or I'm doing something and, they're quick to say, Mr. Faulknor, you're not spreading love. I'm like, you know what? Thanks for calling me out. You know what I mean? But, it keeps me
Smart
accountable.
Kids.
Yeah, it keeps me accountable. And I really want to represent, who I am through my brand. And, I'm humbled when people say that I represent that, because I'm really trying to do that, And, there's a saying that when I was in university, my strength and conditioning coach used to talk about this all the time, was like, don't talk about it, be about it. You know what I mean? And even if I don't talk about it, I want my actions to demonstrate that, right? So it's very important to me that, I represent my brand to the fullest and, make an impact.
That obviously says a lot about you and your character. Take us down the path of, you're like, okay, I want to start a brand. I know people know me. My friends kind of know me as, spreading love, Mr. Spread Love. Let me put that on some t-shirts. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I can't imagine starting a clothing company would be an easy feat. I mean, it's obviously a very competitive space. There's a lot of players in that game, and it's expensive to get in to that niche. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started marketing yourself at the start, just to get a couple deals done? Like, where did it all begin?
Again, 2014 was the idea. I had no background in as far as how to start a clothing brand. I was familiar with entrepreneurial and being a business person from the past, past experiences with friends starting businesses, but in the fashion industry, it was new. I had no clue. And the first thing I did was I went to Google,
Good old Google.
Google, it never fails.
It never fails.
It never fails. And, how do I get shirts? Where do I get shirts from? Google that. And, I found a company downtown that print shirts, I realized later on they're ripping me off. And of course, you're going to learn all that through experience, right? So,
but that's a really important point, because a lot of people don't want to get started because they fear that kind of stuff, right? A lot of people say, well, I have to do X amount of research before I get started. And what if this person's going to rip me off? Or what if I fail at this? Like, what made you do it anyway? Knowing that.
Yeah, it's a process. Everything is a process. In order to be successful or whatever your level of success is, you're going to have to go through those moments where you don't know anything, or you spent too much, or you lost money, people cheat you, you have to go through that, right? So for me, I wasn't going to let that stop me from achieving what I wanted to. So, going through that and learning from those mistakes, I was able to think smarter, figure out ways that would either, be cheaper, or, I could save some money, or, save me time, and each year I was learning little stuff and asking a lot of questions as well. People that were in the field that had more experience than me, I was asking a lot of questions, doing research and stuff. So a lot of it's trial and error.
It's so funny. As you're talking, it kind of makes me think of you as a teacher, or a lot of parents that we see speaking to kids. They're saying these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling kids, like, you got to try stuff, and you got to see what you like. And sometimes you got to fall and then get up and try it again. Yeah. But somewhere along the line in our journey into adulthood, we kind of lose that like lack of fear or that risk taking. And I think it goes to show, like, if you put in all that effort and you're consistent and you believe in yourself, most importantly, because you said you started this in 2014, it's 2021, and we're now in a major retailer. Like, obviously there was points where I imagine that you would have wanted to quit.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think I had a conversation with someone already, maybe you. I remember 3 times specifically where I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I was like, no one's responding, no one's gonna like it. A lot of times you doubt yourself. At one point I was selling Spread Love, but I wasn't wearing it. And I don't know if I was...
Like, why? You weren't proud of the brand at that time?
Exactly. And a really good friend of mine, who also started a brand the same time I did, we had a conversation. He's like, yo, Jay, you got to start wearing your stuff, man. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, I have nothing to be ashamed of.
Well, you're the billboard, really. At some point, if no one else is wearing your stuff,
right,
it's got to be you.
Yeah.
Like,
so
you're the advertiser.
I started wearing my stuff. And to this day, every time I leave the house, I have at least one piece of Spread Love on. And I usually get a comment, or it's a conversation starter. And it's happened so many times at the airport, on the street, in the mall, gas station. I end up having a heavy conversation just off my shirt. Like, people see it and like, oh, I love the message. And I'll be like, thank you. It's actually my brand. Really? And then next thing you know, phone numbers exchange or Instagram exchange. Hey, let's do coffee. Hey, I have an opportunity for you. I know someone that would like your brand. And, things start like that. So
that's so funny. Yeah. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners, I talk a lot about real estate specifically. Obviously, I'm a real estate agent, and the media company, we do majority of our work, our content production for real estate agents. And we always tell people, like, look, you can't be a secret agent.
Exactly.
You people got to know that you're a real estate agent, because a lot of people say, well, I don't want to be on real estate, and that sounds pushy or whatever it is. It's like, if you're not going to brag for yourself, no one else is going to. And there's a way to do it, like, tactfully and tastefully, obviously.
100%.
But it's so funny because we always say, like, if you put out information and you're a walking billboard for yourself, and I don't necessarily mean that people have to put their face on their car, real estate agents' face on their car, right? I just mean the point of putting yourself out there, talking about what you're passionate about, or wearing it, or showing up and getting super clear on your personal brand, people are going to start asking you questions, or they're going to do a digital deep dive on you, and they're going to figure it out at some point. They're going to say, hey, this person's a real estate agent. Hey, this person's a clothing designer. Right? And I think that's the important part. It's like, you have to be super proud of what it is you're trying to tell the world about yourself.
Exactly. And then I think a lot of people think everything has to be perfect in order to like start putting yourself out there. And, you know, I fell victim to that too, because I'm like, okay, I'm not ready yet. Like, when are you going to be ready?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be perfect. You got to put something out there, show your face, let people know who you are, your brand, and then go from there. Just continue building. And, you know, I've been able to do that. I think consistency is key. And I've been able to be consistent for the last few years. And I think that has helped me a lot as far as growth and my brand and people, you know, seeing it. Because, you know, I'll see strangers and I'm like, yo, I've seen that shirt before. And I'm like, for real? You seen it before? Where? You know, and I'll ask them.
That's a great question,
And I'm like, where'd you see it? Oh, I saw, you know, I was at Starbucks. You know, a friend took a picture and was like, yo, I see your shirt. I'm like, for real? Where? I'm at Starbucks. Some girl in the line. I'm like, all right. So people are seeing it.
So now it no longer just has to be you wearing it.
Exactly.
Other people are talking about you. It's kind of like referrals for clothing, right? I'm talking about real estate agents. We're always talking about getting those referrals, having people essentially doing the marketing for you. And that really only comes from providing a certain level of value, which obviously you've done. I get the feeling you have a very strong community of followers on the Instagrams of the world and the Facebooks of the world. Can you tell us a little bit about how your sales, like, I assume you launched on a website only, because you didn't have a store, right? So you were doing like website only. Did you go heavy on Facebook ads or any type of ad spend, or was it just organic growth through your community?
It's been 100% organic. Again, like 2014, I started a WordPress website. I was just getting into Instagram, you know, and it's changed so much in the last, obviously, 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years. But everything was Instagram, and I had a website. So, you know, I was able to push, you know, my product, push the message. I really hid behind Instagram for a while. You know, I was a little, I don't know. I wouldn't say I was embarrassed, but, you know, I wasn't comfortable putting my face out there, not thinking, you know, that people would actually support me because it was a guy behind this message.
You know what I mean? Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more? Because we always have people who say, you know, I'm too scared. I'm scared no one's going to care what I have to say, so I don't want to put myself out there. It sounds like you had that.
I'll be honest, for a while, for about 2 or 3 years, I really hid behind it because I didn't think that people would be receptive because it was a male that was pushing this. And our culture, obviously,
that's crazy.
Our culture really, really I wouldn't say looks down on, but like, you know, for men to be vulnerable and talk about love and stuff like that, you know, I was self-conscious about that. I don't know why, but, you know, I came from a loving family. My parents always expressed how they felt, especially my mom, you know, I love you. You know, to this day, I still give my mom kisses, you know what I mean? When I see her and when I'm leaving. But like, you know, guys being expressive about emotion and love, it's kind of like taboo.
That's so interesting because people probably can't tell here, the height differential here. How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
5?
No, I'm 6'6". I'm 6'6".
I actually said it. 6'6" compared to me being 5'1". I'm actually on a booster seat that you guys can't see, just so that, you know, we're in the same frame. We're in the same frame here. But like, yeah, you obviously have quite a presence about you. You were in the sports world. I imagine that too is a bit taboo, right? In that world, it's like tough guy and you have to act a certain way. What made you say, like, finally gave into yourself and say, like, look, this is me. I want to go down this path. Screw everybody else. How do you get over that kind of fear?
Honestly, I just didn't care anymore. I wasn't concerned what people want to say or think about me. You know, at that time, 2014, there was so much violence happening in Toronto. You know, I wanted to change the vibe a little bit and atmosphere and just kind of get people to actually like think about the impact they could actually have on individuals, you know, around them, their family, their city, their community. And I was like, man, this message is so important. It's so simple. It's 2 words, but you know what? There's so much power and strength in spread love. And I'm like, if everyone can kind of just slow down and think about that, how can I spread love? How can I make an impact? What can I do? What can I say? My actions to kind of like change the energy and the atmosphere around, like immediately around you, and extended. Because if I can affect you in a positive way, you're gonna feel good about yourself. You're gonna want to do something nice for someone else. So like,
yeah, people pay it forward. And I think
Yeah.
here we're sitting at the end of 2021, the last, year and a half that we've had, everything's just been so polarizing with people's viewpoints. And I think, your message now, obviously it was important in 2014, but it seems even more important today, which is why I'm so happy that you kept on with this journey. You continue to produce content in and around pushing your product, but you also made an important point where you said, I was pushing the message. It wasn't always me pushing my product and trying to sell something. It was me pushing the message. I know some of the content that you're putting out there is, tips or things that you've seen happen to kids and, or, a story from your past. And it's helping people see, like, if you look at a situation from a different angle or a different viewpoint, how you can really be the master of your own future. Right. And I think that that's really what you've done for yourself. So now, fast forward 2021, here we are. You just got in Foot Locker stores. Tell me how this all came about.
I could say initially 2019, I was approached by someone, and they asked me to do a pop-up at Foot Action. I think that's where it all started. I did a pop-up for like 3 days, 2019 in December, right before Christmas, and I did a pop-up there, and the support was ridiculous. It was crazy. There's friends I haven't seen or people I haven't seen since high school that came to support because they saw that I was doing a pop-up in Foot Action, and they came out, supported for 3 days. The feedback was good, made a lot of contacts and support. And then 2020, obviously COVID was running rampant, so that kind of shut everything down. But beginning of 2021, someone reached out to me and was, hey, seen your brand. We love the message. Would you like to work together? And I was like, absolutely. This would be a cool opportunity because, this is stuff that I thought about, I prayed about. I'm like, I want to make Spread Love global. I want to make it national. I want people to know this brand for what it means and what it stands for. And, crazy thing is the person, my contact, they actually forgot to reach back out to me. So they spoke to me in April, and they told me they'd get back to me in the end of April, and they never got back to me. So in May, I reached out and I was like, hey, are we going to work together? Or is this going to happen? And they were like, you know what? I actually forgot. I totally forgot. Thanks for calling. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. And then once I got that confirmation, we just started rolling and planning. This is probably like 3-4 months of planning. So it was actually cool for it to actually happen, because this has happened before where people have reached out, companies have reached out, wanted to collab and work together. I get excited, and then things fall through. It doesn't happen. I don't hear from them. But this actually went through, and I was really excited and appreciative for it to actually happen. So
I want to unpack just a couple of things here before we wrap up. You mentioned that things obviously started and then they kind of dropped off and started again. And I think for anyone who is looking to produce content, this is one of those things where consistency is key. You have to continue to do it. You're not necessarily going to do a sale on your very first post. It's going to be a grind. Oh. This stuff takes years, you guys. So it's a commitment to the marketing, a commitment to your branding 100%. And knowing and believing in yourself. And I think that that's all going to unfold in the future. You also said something else that I think is very important for real estate agents. And I always pick up on these things, is like, you followed up. 100%. Like, not everything's going to drop in your lap as this perfect opportunity.
People think that's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? They start something, they're excited about it, all this energy, and all of a sudden, they're not getting the response that they were expecting. And they either stop doing it, or they're like, all right, this is not it. Let me try something else. Like, it's not going to be easy. And you got to be proactive. You got to be assertive. You got to actually go after what you want, what you need. Do it diligently, and I think the biggest thing is don't compare yourself to where you know, other people are, because this industry is packed. There's some heavy hitters in this game of fashion or whatever you're doing. There's other people that are in it. And, you know, for me, I almost got caught up in that, you know, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move at my own pace, you know, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to do research, and I'm just going to just grow. And like you said, it's a grind.
Right? I love that. I think everything that you've said is really important and can be, you know, taken in any industry that you're in. Is like, you got to put the blinders on. You have to have just that belief system in yourself and get started. And you've been doing all the content, and it probably felt like it was never going to come to fruition. And obviously at some point, someone finally said, like, I've seen your content. I've seen what you've been putting out. I know your brand. You didn't have to reach out to them. And that's the point where you're like, I've got something here. And that's the point where I think doors start to open for people. Opportunities open. I mean, you're a teacher by day, and you're a clothing designer by night. And I just think that goes to show the viewers and the listeners, whatever industry you're in, whatever your career is, if you're not happy, get a side hustle. Start doing something in the evening or after you put the kids to bed, or find that hour at lunchtime to work on that thing that you are passionate about. And by putting it out on social media, and by doing stuff like this, like interviews with other people, other influencers, you can actually start to grow something that might end up taking place of your regular day-to-day job.
It can. And it only takes one yes to change your life. You know what I mean? I'm not saying my life has changed because of Foot Locker, but it's an opportunity which will probably lead to something else, right? So I'm going to use this experience with Foot Locker, and hopefully it'll propel me to something else where I could, you know, go scale and go bigger and be able to, you know, do more, you know, because I'm not done yet. I know I'm not done yet. You know, this is only the beginning. I'm very excited about what's going to happen. But at the same time, I am trying to figure out what that next thing is going to be. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I'm so pumped for you. I think that this has a lot of legs. I feel like, as you mentioned, you're just getting started here at FTGU Media. I think we've said it once, we'll say it again. This is the virus we do like to spread.
100%.
For sure. So be sure to spread some love today. And we're going to make sure that all of your contact information, where to follow you on the Instagrams of the world and the social media of the world, that's going to be in the description, so you guys can take a look at everything that you're up to. And hopefully you can spread some love yourself. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Damn.